Okay, so welcome, and we're gonna, in this problem, we're gonna graph this function and see what happens. Okay, so this function is 1 plus 1 over x. So notice we have x in the denominator. So remember, we cannot have 0 in the denominator, so 0 is a restricted value. So let's see what happens to the graph and see why x can't equal 0. Okay, let's see what's going on. So let's start with x, and let's start with the positive values of x over here and see, or negative values. So if we put in negative 7, what's going on? So negative 7 gives us 1 plus a negative 1/7, which gives us negative what? 6 6/7. If we put in negative 6, we get what? Negative 6 here, we get, oh, hold on a second. That's wrong. So if we take 1 and we're subtracting off 1 plus negative 1/7, then that's going to be just 6/7. And if we say have 1 and plus a negative 1/6, then that's going to give us 5/6. And then if we put in negative 5, we're going to get 4/5. If we put in negative 4, we get 3/4. If we put in negative 3, we get 2/3. If we put in negative 2, we get 1/2. If we put in negative 1, we get 0, right? And we can't put in 0 because we get an undefined answer. So let's put in negative 1/3. Well, if we put a negative 1/3 in here, this whole thing is 1 over 1/3, which becomes 3. So then this becomes what? 1 minus 3, which is negative 2. What if we put, oops, wrong way. What if we put in negative 1/7? Well, if we put in negative 1/7 here, we get 1 over negative 1/7, which is negative 7. And so then we get negative 6. If we put in negative 1/10, so notice the fractions are getting smaller in the negative, which means that they're getting closer and closer to 0, right? So we're getting closer and closer to 0. So this is going to end up being negative 9. And so notice how these fractions are decreasing and getting bigger. So they're decreasing here in the positive, and then they're decreasing here in the negative. So what's going on here? It starts off getting closer. They're really small. So when x is really big negative, it's really close to the x-axis, right? And then as we get closer, it's going to go through negative, where is it? Negative 1, 0, so it's going to go through here. So it starts off above the x-axis here, and the fractions are getting smaller. It goes through here, oops. this up. Let me try that again. So it's going something like that. Okay? And then we can't have 0. Now what's going on the other side of the origin? Well, as the x values now get closer and closer to 0, right? On the negative side of 0, they're getting closer and closer to 0. Now it's going to negative, right? But what happens on the other side of 0? What about the positive side of 0? Well, what if I start with really close to 0? What if I do positive 1/10? And then positive 1/3 or 1/7. Positive 1/3 and positive 1, and then 2, and then 3, and so on. Well, if I put in 1/10 here, then I get 1 plus 10, which is 11. And then if I put in 7 here, 1/7, if I put in 1/7 here, I get 1 over 1/7, which is 7, so then I get 8. And likewise, with 3, 1/3, I get 4. And with 1, I get 2. And with 2, right, if I put in 2 here, I get 1.5. If I put in 3, I get 1/3. So look what's happening. I'm getting closer and closer, right? So it's decreasing, right? So here, as I get closer and closer to the x-axis, or the y-axis rather, if I get closer and closer to the y-axis, so as x gets really close to 0, it's getting bigger positive, right? So it looks like I'm starting here, and in this case, again, I can't touch the x-axis. So it looks like I'm doing something like this. Oops, a little too low. Let's put in 10. Then I'm going to get 1 and 1/10. So what's happening is x gets bigger and bigger and bigger. This is getting closer and closer to 1. But as x goes to really big numbers, only get closer to 1. So it looks like the graph is not going to cross that horizontal imaginary line of y equals 1. Okay, so again, this is an example where we have to be careful because there's obviously something going on. So this is one of those things we have to check, make sure we understand the behavior and check additional points as well. Okay, have a great day.